Martin. Yes. And our moderator here is, or panelist, whatever you want to call it, Jeff Manaski of WIBX gets the next question here. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. There has been some discussion recently about putting those who are on a government terror watch list on a list that would also maybe restrict or at least mean additional screening for someone looking to purchase a weapon. Would you support such legislation and why? Martin Babinec has this first.
Two thoughts come to mind on how we approach putting those on a terrorism watch list to be restricted with regards to gun purchases. First is, what due process options are available? Because right now there are too many reports of people that got on the no-fly list and were not able to get themselves removed because there's not enough protection, the process is not clear enough, or it's not easily accessible. So that's been a problem. The second issue becomes one of resources, because if you set up the process and say, here's what's going to happen on how someone can be removed, then you have to resource it properly. So in order to say how I would approach it, it would depend on the details of the particular bill. We're going to see a lot of negotiation between the two parties to come up with a final arrangement, and I would certainly want to participate in that.
Okay, Kim Myers.
Thank you. Obviously, first and foremost, we need to make sure that Americans are safe. We need to protect the Second Amendment. And it doesn't seem logical that if you're on a terrorist no-fly list that you should be able to purchase a weapon. But in this country of rights and laws, it seems that if you're going to put someone on a list, you must have a process. And it must be a process that actually works and has the people who can look very clearly into whether the person should remain on the list or whether they should not remain on the list. So I mean that's what who we are as a country, that we do have rights and we need to protect those rights, but we also need to keep everyone safe.
Assemblywoman Tenney.
Yeah, this is a question of reasonableness. We have a terror watch list and there's also a no-fly list. Someone taking a one-way flight, say to Florida, could be on the no-fly list. Someone very innocently is on that list, but the bureaucracy is so dense that you can't get off the no-fly list once they've discovered that you really have nothing in your background. We need to obviously vet anyone that's going to be given a firearm, but we also have to balance that with our Second Amendment rights. It's vitally important. I think just because you're on the no-fly list, we need to be able to remove you from the no-fly list so you could be able to purchase a gun if you're a legal abiding citizen. I mean, just because you take a one-way flight shouldn't land you on permanently in a status where you cannot purchase a firearm. So I think it's just a balance, and also, you know, we do have to have due process rights. It's something we're given as American citizens under the 14th Amendment, and those are things that should be honored.
All right, Kim Myers gets the next question. Alex Gerald from the Observer-Dispatch has that question.
Great, thank you. This question deals with the economy. A recent Washington Post article states that economists say there is a 1 in 5 chance of a recession next year. The Federal Reserve is on the march toward raising interest rates, and threats continue to flow from abroad, including the United Kingdom's exit from the European Union and other signs of turbulence in the global economy. What would be your first step, if elected, to protect the American economy?
Oh, we need to have jobs. We need to make sure that people are working. We need to make sure that they have, you know, access to credit and access to keep our economy moving. You know, we are a global economy, and what affects one country certainly does have a ripple effect throughout the world. And we have to make sure that we do everything that we can to keep that stable. Some of it is out of our control, but we are one of the largest economies, and I believe that we are the leader, and we need to lead by example and to assure that we don't fall into another recession and that there isn't a domino effect across the world. And I think that is our job, to make sure that we do that, and to do everything we can to do that.
Assemblywoman Tenney.
The United States has a spending problem. We don't have a revenue problem. We're picking up through taxes some of the highest revenues that we've ever had in this country. We're facing a $19.5 trillion debt that continues to grow. That debt number doesn't talk about the deficit, and it doesn't talk about the unfunded liabilities we have, which are in the hundreds of trillions of dollars. We need to reduce our taxes, regulations, and really we need to be disciplined about stopping the spending. The spending is what's causing the problem. We're going to continue to go into recession if we maintain the trade imbalance that we have by exporting so many goods and not exporting goods and having a trade deficit by accepting so many imports. We've got to do something about that trade balance, and by bringing jobs back to our country, that's going to help us fight against this recession. We can have manufacturing here. I'm living proof that our manufacturing plant has been here for 70 years. We need to empower our small business community. Those are the people that create jobs, not the big giants that get corporate welfare like the businesses that my opponents run. 70% of the new jobs are created by small businesses.
Martin Babinec.
I'm certainly in agreement that we need to reduce taxes and regulations, both of which have a big impact on our economy. Right now, we're paying the highest corporate taxes of any industrialized country. We have trillions of dollars parked outside the United States that companies would bring back if we provided the right incentives for them to do that. But beyond taxes and regulations, well, again, both of which are important, I'm a believer that in this congressional role, I have the opportunity to help in that job growth in this district because we have all the right ingredients for success. We have the talent, we have the research that's happening, we have the people that are interested in creating companies and jobs. This is what I've worked on for the last 6 years in my nonprofit Upstate Venture Connect. And we need to unlock these ingredients so that we can create these companies that our next generation do indeed want to work right here in upstate New York instead of our waving goodbye to them, as too often happens with our next generation. That's what I'm committed to, and that's why I'm running for Congress.
All right, our next question comes from Sean Martinelli of WTRTV.
Yes, many Americans feel the large presence of pharmaceutical companies have hindered the ability to seriously fight the nation's heroin and opioid epidemic. What will you do to help fight this issue despite outside influences in Congress?
Thank you. This is obviously one of the biggest problems facing our nation. It's a scourge not only in our small communities, but especially where we don't have jobs. Jobs provide dignity, they provide people an opportunity to make themselves productive in our society, something we value as Americans in a self-governing republic. As a member of the state assembly, I traveled around the state trying to look for solutions to the heroin epidemic. We met with parents, we met with the addicts themselves, we met with their family members. We looked for healthcare solutions, and many people don't realize that some of our healthcare solutions aren't adequate for what the needs are of many of our heroin addicts. We need to solve this problem by giving people jobs and giving them an access to get out of this horrible addiction. There are addictions in many other areas, but this is, I think, a jobs issue. I also think that central planning coming from the federal government and dumping more money into this thing may not be the only solution. I think we need to provide resources to the state so the state can provide a solution to this problem in local communities. Those are some of the things that we proposed in the state assembly. We worked with our federal representatives also on providing those solutions.
Martin Babinec.
When I think about the extent of this problem, as I've traveled around the district and met with voters throughout, there's no question this is a huge issue that's touched a lot of lives in this district. The prescription for it includes some things on the policy side, where we have the need to even look at our current requirements that are provided under both public health programs and what we can require insurance companies to cover for treatment. And the fact that there is no standard protocol for emergency room treatment of people that come in with an overdose is still astounding to me and something that we should be able to fix from a regulatory standpoint. On the education side, we right now put too many of our federal dollars into our school systems trying to address alcohol, drug, tobacco, and marijuana, thinking that that's the gateway to opiate abuse, when in fact most of the studies are showing that opiate abuse comes from prescription medication as the first level of exposure, oftentimes through family and friends. So we need to change our approach, even on the education standpoint, to prevent the amount of opiate abuse that gets started.
Kim Myers.
Thank you. This is a subject that I am absolutely passionate about, that it affects every single community across this entire country. And although heroin is a huge problem, we need to prevent it from through law enforcement coming into our country. That is the end product. The beginning of this problem starts with prescription drugs. We need federal regulations as to how many and what type of prescription drugs, opiates, can be prescribed and for what. No teenager getting their wisdom teeth out needs a 30-day supply of an opiate for their wisdom teeth. We need to have regulations on who gets those drugs and how long they're able to have them for. And then once unfortunately a person is addicted, we need federal, state, and local solutions to make sure that we have treatment for them, that we have access to care in a reasonable time frame. We need to have follow-up, and we also need to have education so parents know if your child separates their shoulder on the football field, they should not have a prescription for an opiate. Opiates were designed for acute surgical pain only, and we have overprescribed them, and that is one of the first things that needs to happen to address this horrible epidemic that is.
All right, this is sorry about the bell. 22nd Congressional District debate going on with Claudia Tenney, Kim Myers, Martin Babinec. We did open the door for listeners to have the opportunity to ask a few questions. So what I'd like to do here is a bit of a quick lightning round. I'll just throw out a couple questions that they have and quick answers to some of these questions. Alan in Rome, and we'll go right down the line. We'll start with Claudia Tenney. Alan in Rome asks your take on abortion, Roe v. Wade.
I'm pro-life.
Martin?
I'm also pro-life and feel we should be restricting our use of federal tax dollars when it comes to abortions.
And Kim Myers?
The Supreme Court has ruled on Roe versus Wade in the 1970s, and I believe they should stand.
Steve in Utica says, what is your position on regulating college costs? I know it's going to be hard to come up with a very quick answer, but do you want to just give us something of a summary, if you will, on where you stand?
You want to start with the same order?
In the same order. For
Oh,
this.
okay. Look, college costs are killing our students right now with debt. I think one of the problems is we have a lot of debt available, but another two big factors is that we are unable to renegotiate those loans, and parents are, who sometimes are paying the debt. It's the number one complaint that I get from parents. So that's a problem. The other big thing is one of the big movements in New York is to try to allow illegal aliens to come in and use our TAP, our tuition assistance program. I'm against that. We need to provide loan resources to our American citizens only.
Martin?
I'm also in favor of allowing families to refinance college debt, which currently isn't permitted. We've made college debt too easy to access. Oftentimes it's not held to commercial standards. And it's been a factor that's caused the rise in college tuition. Government's not in a position to tell colleges how much they charge, other than public universities, where that's determined by individual states. But with the shrinking demographic for college students, we're going to end up having a situation where colleges are going to find that cost pressure themselves, and I expect we're going to see some greater control of the cost on that side.
And Kim Myers?
Thank you. Yes, increasing the Pell Grants and definitely allowing those who have student loans to renegotiate them to a lower interest rates, just as you're able to do with your mortgage, certainly would help with college debt, as well as having our students.
That actually was my phone doing.
Oh, sorry.
You can continue.
That's okay.
You're good?
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry about that. It'll go on mute immediately. Jeff Manaski gets the next question.
If I could just have you tighten a little, Kim, I think you're getting maybe clipped on our TV simulcast here as you guys are spreading out a little bit.
We would owe you equal time for the morning. I'm just sitting
Just
in the
half.
studio. So.
Just half.
Only half, yes.
I just don't want people to vote half for me.
Martin Babinec gets this first. What I wanted to do was give each of the candidates an opportunity. We've all seen you starring in the, I'll call them the attack ads, and I wanted to give each of the candidates an opportunity to address the allegations made in the attack ads against you, and maybe set the record straight if you choose to do so. Martin, you are first.
Well, I'm in a unique position. I'm the only candidate in this race that gets shots from both sides, in the sense that I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. I certainly have the Democrats saying that I'm too conservative, and I have the Republicans saying I'm too liberal. Pretty interesting position to be in. The fact is, most of the voters in this district are pretty upset with both parties. They're angry and frustrated. And I am on a path to help bridge some of that divide, because I don't fit in either box. I'm not beholden to special interests, and I'm the only candidate in this race that can say I'm not taking any special interest PAC contributions. This race has been funded with more than $9 million so far, and I expect it's probably going to exceed 10 or 11 by the time it's over. More than $6.2 million of that funding is coming from special interest PACs, which again, I've not received a single dollar. If voters don't think that's not going to have an impact on where the future votes are going to come from my opponent, they need to think twice. We need to have independent representation looking after the voters' best interests and worrying less about re-election.
All right, when you do hear a bell, it's not my phone anymore. Kim Myers, you're next.
Thank you. Yes, this has been quite a race, hasn't it? And the amount of money that has been spent on this race is gives you pause. The attacks that have been on myself have been unfounded and not true. Our company has never shipped a single job overseas. But more importantly, as Martin addressed, the super PAC money, by law, a candidate has no knowledge of what those ads are going to be or what is said in those ads. There is a complete firewall that set up that. And as far as being influenced by those, if you don't know who those are, I don't know how I can be beholden to them. I'm beholden to no one. I have never been a rubber stamp. You can ask anybody that knows me to anything, and I certainly would not be a rubber stamp. But I do believe campaign finance reform should be a #1 issue in Washington when I get there.
Assemblywoman Tenney.
90% of the attack ads are against me. Ms. Myers has spent, or through the DCCC, which is Democratic, Nancy Pelosi's PAC, has spent, it's going to look like $6 million against me, calling me everything from an Albany insider, and anybody that knows me knows I'm not an Albany insider, saying I'm a no-show. I argue I'm the hardest working person in the state assembly. I have a 96% attendance record. They keep talking about a no-show. Kim Myers says it in her own ads that are paid for. Martin Babinec is not even a factor in this race. He has 0 chance to victory, but he's trying to morph himself into looking like a Republican to split the vote so that someone like Nancy Pelosi could possibly take over again with Obamacare imploding. This is a really complex issue. These attack ads are just, you know, they're almost abusive. I mean, talking about me voting for pensions for convicted criminals. I sponsor the bill that's supposed to take pensions away from convicted criminals like Sheldon Silver. I'm the first to stand up to him. And as to jobs in China, Ms. Myers apparently does not read the 10K that Dick's Sporting Goods puts out. They have Dick's Sporting Goods International, Hong Kong, Dick's International Sourcing Holdings Limited, Hong Kong Corporations, Dick's International Sourcing Group, a People's Republic of China Trust, DIH Limited, Hong Kong Corporation, DHI 1 Limited, manufacturing products in China. 99% of her products are manufactured overseas and not here.
Well over time, Kim Myers should have an opportunity to respond.
I really, really appreciate that. I understand that my opponent has no idea how business works, and that as a company, we sell products. We do not manufacture the products, and some of our major vendors, like Nike, Under Armour, the North Face, they make their products overseas. We own 0 factories in China. We never have, and we own 0 factories, never had in the United States. It's a nice soundbite, and it's an attack that might resonate with people, but not anybody that really knows about how retail or how business works.
I think Martin should have an opportunity to respond to that as well.
Just briefly, both campaigns, both my opponent's campaigns, have actually put money in negative advertising. And I would like to remind the voters that voters are really interested in what is the message going forward, much more so than the attacks. I've not put a single dollar into negative advertising. I focus only on trying to get my message out, because I think that's what voters need to hear.
Can I keep this going just a little bit, Assemblywoman?
Let me first address Mr. Babinec. You are deceiving the voters. You have spent a fortune, $3 million, because you've gained corporate welfare, millions and millions in tax breaks from the taxpayers to create your wealth somewhere else. You have spent a fortune slandering and libeling my family business on social media, which is a very effective means of communicating with people. You have run a very negative campaign against me, and Ms. Myers, I just don't know how you can say, you have a 10K statement, and I'm not sure you even know what that is. I actually run a manufacturing business. I ran our family business, which was the Penny Saver, which was here. You don't even realize what you're talking about. So let's talk about the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, January 2015, talking about all the different products and services that are outsourced to China. You have what they call tax haven subsidiaries. That's what all these are. Millions of dollars, I presume, in money over and overseas and not here. All of our goods and services, all of our money, all of our taxes in our family business are done and paid here in New York. We are a New York corporation.
Both should have the opportunity to respond. Unfortunately, Kim Myers, yours was just last, but I need to give Martin the first opportunity, because you were a part of the first part of that conversation.